Hey everyone, it's Teresa and today we are going to be stamping with watercolor pencils. I'm also introducing you to a new range of stamps that I just got all the way from South Africa, so stay tuned. Right, so this is the most beautiful 3 sets of stamps. It's from Anri from Painted Lemons. I'll link her channel down below. She also does a beautiful video on how she uses her stamps. It's photopolymer stamps. Now if you remember from my stamping video, I'll link that if you haven't watched that yet, that stamps come in red rubber stamps, they come in photopolymer stamps, the sticky ones that are cling mount. Okay, they cling to your stamping block. And then you get the photopolymer stamps that come in sheets, and you have to cut them out, and then you need to add something on the back to actually make them sticky so they can go on either a stamping block like this, all right, or you can use a stamping platform. So I'm going to cut these out and then we're going to get stamping with watercolor pencils. I have done my cutting and I am going to use this flower in this set, and I've cut out some of the alphabets. It's actually quite easy to cut these out. You can either use a craft knife or a scissor. The upside of being able to cut out your own stamps on these type of photopolymer stamps is that you can get really close to your little letters and there's not a lot of backing. You can cut all that backing away, and then when you line your stamps up in your stamp platform, you can actually line up the entire word, and that just makes it so much easier to stamp one word all together than having to stamp each individual letter. And what that also allows you is you will be able to leave pieces into the stamp that is actually made to cut away, like that leaf and that heart, or you can actually cut pieces of the stamp out that you actually didn't want there. If you didn't want that piece of leaf, if you wanted that as a separate stamp, you can actually cut through that and it won't affect the rest of your stamps, and then you have that piece separate, but you can also stamp it together. So that's an upside. The only downside obviously is that it's not cling mount, but that's actually easy to rectify. You can put any type of double-sided tape on the back of this. Now you don't need a lot of double-sided tape. I used normal thin paper crafting double-sided tape, and I've just got 4 little pieces on the edge of this one, and each of the letters have each just got 1 little piece down the middle. What I would suggest with these type of stamps is actually to go and get offcut pieces of wood and actually wood mount these stamps. So you permanently attach them to a little block of wood. This piece of block would actually be big enough for this size flower, and that would just make it easier to stamp with these, because the double-sided tape does wear off and it tends to sometimes stick to your platform or your blocks, and that can get a little annoying. So best for these, I would suggest, is to have offcut pieces of wood and then block mount them. Block mounting is probably what I'm going to do with my set of stamps. So let's get stamping with watercolor pencils. So what you will need is watercolor pencils. I've got the Albrecht Dürer watercolor pencils from Faber-Castell. I have my sponge in my little container here. You can just do a kitchen sponge in a saucer. I have a brush and a spray bottle. You need a spray bottle that does a very fine mist. This is a cosmetic one. All right, and then you either need stamp blocks or you need a stamping platform. Now this isn't a traditional stamping platform. This is actually a letterpress platform, but this is what I have and I'm going to use it. The only difference is that the hinge doesn't open as wide as what a stamping platform would, so you probably won't be able to use thick the red rubber stamps in this specific one. It's actually made for letterpress, but it will do the job today. Sorry about the glare. Let's get going. So to use a stamp platform like this, I'm just going to do cardstock for now. Just lining up my paper. Then I'm going to line up my stamp. Okay, so first you place it where you want your stamp, the way you want it around. Then you close your platform. And now you can open it and you can ink up your stamp. Now you can ink it up with stamp pads like we did in the previous video, or ink pads. Or today I'm going to show you a fun technique with watercolor pencils. Alright, so what you need to do is just spritz the stamp. I already have my 3 colors ready. I'm going to spritz my stamp with plain water in a mister that mists very fine. Try not to get my paper. Okay, once I've misted my stamp, I can go in with my watercolor pencils. Now there's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm just applying color and the water is activating the pigment. Just applying color to all the raised areas of the stamp. And I'm just going to try and see. If you've missed an area, that's fine, because you are in the stamp platform. You can go back and restamp an area. Okay. Then I am going to use a paper towel and just take off excess water around my stamp so that it doesn't transfer onto my paper. Close. And very light pressure. You want to use almost no pressure. Very light pressure. Okay, so I can see that I've missed a few areas of the stamp, and that's perfectly fine. We missed it again, and then I will go and I'll see this area here, which is here, so we'll add more color there. Just make sure that you can see that the pencil activates on here, otherwise you might need more water with your spritzer. So we need to get that part, and we also didn't get this part really well, so let's do more of the yellow on that part. That part is nice, that one's nice. Okay, and again, very little pressure. You're just transferring that activated watercolor pencil. There we go. And that is how easy it is to stamp with watercolor pencil. And it will look a little bit watercolor-ish, and the colors will bleed a little, and that's what you want, because you want that watercolor look. Alright, we're not going to go here for a very fine detailed stamp that you would get with ink pads. This is a specific look. It's very easy to clean off. If there's pencil that dried on the stamp, you just spritz it again with water. It will reactivate and you can clean your stamp. You can also use your stamp chamois. Okay, take that off, and now we're moving and we're going to do the letters. So this is another reason why a stamp platform is useful, because now I can line up my letters, close the stamp platform, and the letters are all in the correct place. You can play around with your placement, and because I was able to cut very close to my letters, I can use all the letters together without having to stamp each individual one to get them close enough to each other. We're going to make the P fit. Close the lid, transfer them to the lid, and then same process. I'm going to spritz my letters and take my watercolor pencils and add color. Just make sure that you can see that they do activate into the water, so it's not dry pencil. Dry pencil will not stamp off. You need it to activate with the water onto the stamp. And there where the colors meet, they will obviously blend, and that is what you want. Gorgeous. I'm going to take my paper towel. I'm going to remove the excess moisture so that it doesn't transfer to my paper. Remember, very little pressure. You're just transferring the watercolor pencil, and you don't want it to squash it too much. There we go. And then if there's a letter that didn't stamp very well, like I said, what you can also do is have your sponge, with water on top, and you can stick your pencil into the sponge to activate the tip of the pencil. So let's just wet this. Activate the tip of the pencil and then go on top of the stamp. There we go. And that is how easy it is to stamp with watercolor pencils. Let's do one more on watercolor paper. This is 300 GSM cold pressed Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper, and I've cut out this beautiful leaf. I put my double-sided tape on the back. And placing it. Picking it up with my platform. Okay, so let's this time do it with the sponge, so you can see the different ways to activate your watercolor pencil. I just find it a lot quicker and a lot less tedious with just spritzing the stamp. But if you want a lot less moisture and a lot less wicking, then it's probably best to use this method. The pencils seem to have dried a tad bit, so I'm just going to give it a very light mist. See what it looks like. Okay, so now there's areas that we might want to redo. There we go. Beautifully stamped image, and now you can even go in and activate some of this a little bit more. Just wetting a brush. That seems to be a little bit dirty. You can just move the colors around a little bit more if you wanted to. And you could even go back in and restamp an area. If you feel that you've lost too much detail in that area, very easy to just go back, realign your page, and stamp that leaf again. There we go. So many ways to play with your watercolor pencils and stamps. I really hope you try this out. It is really a fun technique. Thank you for watching, and do like and subscribe for more fun technique videos.